Hello, welcome to Literally Speaking. Wow, Ben, the contesting fever is still on.
And it will remain until the end of this year. In today's edition of Let's Talk Toastmasters, we'll be expanding further upon a topic that we have released previously in a video. A few weeks ago, we created a video that talked about the types of contests in Toastmasters as well as how they operate throughout the Toastmasters term.
So if you want to know more about that particular video, it's in the link down below.
But in the meantime, today's video will be detailing more on how judges judge in both the international speech contest as well as the humorous speech contest. But Seki, why are we looking at these two contests together in this video?
Purely because the judging criteria for these two competitions are quite similar. There's only one small difference between the two, and we will come to that as we go along for the video for today. So without further ado, let's go on to the judging criteria for international speech. The judging criteria for international speech splits into three main criteria, particularly in content, which takes up 50 points, delivery 30 points, and language 20 points. You put them up together and it adds up to 100 points possible.
The content criteria is further split into three different sub-criteria. The biggest being the speech development sub-criteria, which comprises of 20 points. What are some of the elements that contribute towards speech development? The first element would be the organization of the speech. Did the speaker have a clear introduction, body, and conclusion? Also, another element would be how well the speaker flows from point to point and how it builds up into a climax in the conclusion. The second sub-criteria is effectiveness, which comprises of 15 points. Effectiveness includes the audience reception of the speech, basically how engaged the audience were, as well as how relevant the speech is overall for the audience. The third sub-criteria is speech value, which comprises of 15 points. Basically, speech value is how meaningful and original the content and the message is for the audience.
The next criteria is the delivery, and this further splits evenly to 10 points each. That's the physical, that's the voice, as well as the manner. In the physical sub-criteria, we talk about how the person looks, whether he's dressed appropriately for the speech, in costume or not in costume, or how well this person carries himself. There's also the element of body language, which means to say the use of his arms all the way to how he stands, the posture, and the speaking area, whether he utilizes the whole stage or not. In the voice sub-criteria, we talk about the flexibility of this person's voice, whether the speaker was able to speak in a manner which touches people's hearts well, coinciding and going along with the emotions that he's trying to portray. There's also the volume that he uses. Was the volume appropriate at the point in time, which is the climax or the anticlimax? All these parts comes under the voice sub-criteria. The final sub-criteria for the delivery will be the manner in which the speaker deliver his or her speech. Was the speaker delivering it in a sincere manner? It all shows in that speech. Also, was the speaker enthusiastic as well as assuring when delivering said speech? Did all this come together and make that delivery on point? That's what you look for in the delivery criteria.
And the last and smallest criteria is language, which accounts for 20 points. Language is divided into two sub-criteria, the first being appropriateness, which contributes 10 points. Appropriateness is basically how appropriate the words are used by the speaker. Did the speaker manage to avoid any potentially objectionable language? Does the speaker's words complement the nature of the speech overall? All of this make up the appropriateness sub-criteria. And finally, the last sub-criteria is correctness, which also makes up 10 points. Correctness is basically a measure of the speaker's grammar as well as pronunciation. And with that, we have covered all the sub-criteria which makes up the criteria in the International Speech Contest judging ballot. All of these points tallies up to 100 points. So, Seki, how does the human speech judging criteria differ from the international speech judging criteria?
Well, that's a good question. They don't differ too much. In fact, there's only one small difference. There's an additional sub-criteria within the content, making it 55 points. It is actually the audience's response, which takes up 15 points. Now, how does 15 points add up and become only 55? Simply put, 5 marks were taken out of speech development as well as effectiveness, making it 15 and 10 points respectively. And the final 5 points come from the correctness. So instead of 10 points for correctness, it is only 5 points. The audience response sub-criteria looks into a few different elements. Number one would be whether the audience were attentive during your whole speech. Did they react with laughter or giggles? That would actually add points to it as well. The next element would be how interesting your speech was when you delivered them. Did it manage to capture the audience's attentiveness? If so, did they receive it well with the right reactions? Did they laugh a lot? All these things work up that 15 points. And with that, that is the only difference that you see with humorous speech versus the international speech.
With that, we have elaborated on both the international speech as well as humorous speech judging criteria. Do take note that while judges strive to be as objective as possible, in the end they're still entitled to their personal preferences.
Yes, well, that's pretty much it for this content for today's video. We hope that you've taken home something on how the Toastmasters International view judging for these two particular contests, the international speech as well as the humorous speech. Subscribe to our channel if you have not done so. Remember to like and share this video so that more people can benefit from our content. That's all for today. Till then, keep learning,
Keep enjoying
and keep watching Literally Speaking.